Good morning from Jamaica. We got Odyssey of the Seas come in here into port. We're gonna have an awesome morning. Go grab some breakfast, get off the ship, and go do some rum tasting on shore. First time in Falmouth, not the first time in Jamaica though. Nice little building right there. That's cute. Cool. All right, well, let's get going. So the Port of Falmouth has 2 cruise berths that are full, obviously, today. So walking off the ship here, you got to go through the security building, and then there's a nice little square with lots of shops and restaurants. I do really actually love the look of this area that they spit you out into, the actual port area. But unfortunately, it's not really in a great location I don't think, on the island. It's in between 2 big cruise destinations, Montego Bay and Ocho Rios. Before the port was built, cruises would go to either of those, and they still do, actually. But it just makes it really far from a lot of the activities over in Ocho Rios, like Dunn's River Falls. And then Montego Bay obviously has better beaches, and there's nothing really to walk to outside of the port here. So you do have to do an excursion to get out of this area. Now, the area right in front of the cruise ships is very nice, but it's not like the real Jamaica. It's the actual port. So I do recommend that you go out and experience the ports that you are visiting on these cruise vacations and not just staying in the main homogenized port areas that they built just for cruise ship passengers. Jamaica does have a few warnings out from the State Department, but that wasn't anything that was worrying me. Most of that is dealing with stuff over in Kingston, and this is on the other side of the island, and this area is very touristy and very safe.
Okay, thank you.
I did love the colonial architecture that they used, though, in port here. Lots of jewelry shops, of course. A lot of little bars that are still selling, pretty expensive drinks, I think. I did make a stop, though, and grab some Blue Mountain coffee. So it wasn't any less expensive on the ship. In fact, a little bit more expensive, but a little local flavor because they do make a lot of coffee here in Jamaica. And it was nice to get a nice iced coffee for walking over to where I'm going to go catch my shore excursion. So that's located right outside of the gates here in the port area. There's a lot of excursions here. People are going all over the place on the island. There's zip lines. There's Dunn's River Falls. There's horseback riding on the beach. There's just beach escapes. There's a ton of different things to do here in Jamaica. Unfortunately, though, Falmouth is quite a distance away from those, about a 45-minute to an hour drive. My excursion today is taking me to a rum distillery that, based on my mapping, was not too far away from the port, did include lunch, and I was back on board a few hours before we departed Jamaica, so about a half-day excursion. Thought it was like a nice and chill one. I just wanted something that was like pretty fun. I love taking tours of how things are made. So I was excited about this excursion, rather, and it was, reasonably priced. I think it was about $60, and that included lunch. First time seeing the North Star in operation. These are only on the Quantum class ships. I think it's a really cool feature to sail through the Caribbean and be able to get a bird's eye view of the ports that you're visiting. But it was easy to find the tour guide. Her name was Big Mama. And we began our drive over to Hampden Rum Distillery. So my mapping skills were correct. It is pretty close to the port. Unfortunately, the road up to the rum distillery is just so potholed. It's just really a rough drive. It's not a nice highway by any means, so I really hated that part of this excursion. But it took about 45 minutes. I think if the road was nice, it would have been maybe a 20-minute drive. Just not really a ton to see around this port area.
They got KFC down here.
Yeah, man, we have. But you know what? Here in Jamaica, we don't say KFC. We say keep from cooking. Alright, so here in Jamaica, we have over 120 rivers. Black River, which is located into the parish of St. Elizabeth. Alright, so here in Jamaica, we do have a lot of fruits. We have oranges, bananas, pineapples, melons, guava. Alright, so take a look to your left here, visit the sign. So the home of the, and honestly, so that Jamaica may undergo increasing beauty, fellowship, and prosperity that plays our part in advancing the welfare of the whole human. Look at it. It's peacock. Alright guys, welcome to Hampden Estate. This is where your tour begins, alright? So this is it for me until I see you later on, alright? Yeah man?
Yeah, man.
And enjoy your tour. As I said, you see the guide is here for the...
So once we arrived, it appeared that we were actually going to be getting a pretty cool hard hat tour of the facility. Everything's in full operation, and they do a lot of industrial rum use, so a lot of the rum flavoring in like candies they use their rum for, which is pretty cool to see. A little bit different of an experience than kind of your more commercialized rums. And the cool thing here is they did give us some rum punch to start off our tour. Fortunately, this is where I discovered I really wasn't a big fan of the taste of their rum. But, you know, it's always good to try new things, and you're not going to like everything you try. You know, it is alcohol, so overall, still a good experience.
We only use solid copper hot seal. Currently, we have 5 of them in operation. Some came from Scotland and some came from South Africa. And 50 years. It was renovated twice and enlarged twice. Inside, we have 6 bedrooms.
Owing to its history, it is a high-end plantation. There were once slaves here, it being in the Caribbean. This house was built in 1753. Finally, it was time to enter the facility. So you can just see already that it is definitely a little rough looking. Just can't believe that they produce so much rum out of here. A lot of older buildings, a lot of stuff built in, you know, the 1700s and 1800s even. Very historic buildings here. A lot of like steam going all over the place. There are some low hanging areas, hence the hard hats. They aren't just for show. So pretty cool. Definitely felt like something you couldn't do in America. After the tour, it was time for lunch, and this was definitely a highlight. The food was delicious, some jerk chicken and some jerk pork, as well as I believe they were Johnny cakes. Then we were over to the actual tasting of the rum, so we were able to try a few different varieties. Again, not to my liking, but didn't ruin my day by any means. It was a lot of fun to visit the facility. After that, we had a bumpy ride back to the port and decided to jump back on board the Independence of the Seas. So glad I was not on the Odyssey, though, because the line looked absolutely terrible. One nice thing about getting on this ship a little bit earlier is you can enjoy the views from the top deck of the port that you just visited. So it's really pretty water over here. There's a nice little resort right near the Falmouth port. I am going to come visit here in about a month's time again on board the Symphony of the Seas. So I'm going to actually go with my brother-in-law over to Ochos Rios and go do Dunn's River Falls, some of the more traditional Jamaica excursions. So I'm excited about that. Overall, a pretty good day in port. Wouldn't do the rum excursion again, but I think it is worth doing if you're interested in different rum experiences. I thought it was a really cool tour, and the port itself is fun enough to walk around. Just wish it was a little closer to more of the port activities that you came to Jamaica to do. And so this evening there's actually a mentalist and illusionist in the main theater, so we're going to check that out. I skipped the main dining room again for dinner and just decided to go to Playmakers and try out some of their a la carte options, which is about $8 for dinner, and was pretty delicious. After that, I wanted to do one more game show before bed. Then we have the Sea Day on the way back to Miami. So I will see you tomorrow.